Hi, Sandro. Under your production alias Flashmob, you're known around the world as a DJ and artist that not only delivers irresistible underground beats, but incredible anthems as well, with sounds that push the sonic boundaries within our scene. It is our pleasure to welcome you to the House Culture Podcast today. Thanks for joining us.
Wow, what an introduction! Thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be able to do this. I follow your podcast. I've watched quite a few interviews.
Oh, well, it's good to have you. You know how it works then. It's good to have you on board. I mean, whereabouts in the world are you right now before we start?
I've just got back from Amsterdam and I'm home in Milan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
I anticipated my return from AD, from crazy AD, because I've got a little bit of a flu going on. So I did all the things that I did in pretty much 48 hours, and then I just flew out.
Well, we can talk about that crazy life as we get through. We always want to start at the beginning on the podcast, as I'm sure you know. So let's roll it back to those early years. I mean, where did you grow up, and how did you first discover a kind of love of music? What really turned you onto music from a young age?
I grew up in. I was born in Turin.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was English, born and raised in Liverpool, but from an Irish family. So basically, I'm Irish Italian.
Wow.
From Waterford.
Uh-huh.
And the other side of the family was Scottish, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So my great grandfather was called Charles Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
And my great grandmother was called Caroline Doyle. And in fact, my kids are called Carlo and Carolina. but also because my wife's father is called Carlo. Anyway, This is no interest. But anyway, born in Turin randomly because my father was working there at the time. My mother wanted me to be born in the UK so that I could have a UK passport easily, which I eventually got anyway. Mm-hmm. Raised in Milan, went right through all the schools in Milan, and started working in a pirate radio in the outskirts of Milan once that my parents changed house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that my father was one of the first people in a business adventure that then became successful. Mm-hmm. And although he didn't study, or we didn't really have an easy life at the beginning, at one point it all turned over and we went from living in one of the worst places in Milan, where I grew up on the streets, basically. Crazy. And then we went to live in where I actually live now, because I lived in one of the nicest places in Milan. Mm-hmm. And I stayed there till the end of university, then went away for 20 years and then came back here.
Yeah.
With my whole family, with my new family, with my wife, my kids.
Yeah.
And no, I was laughing before because I've just realized by age 8, I'd already smoked a cigarette. I did some crazy stuff when I was. Now these days, it's strange because these days I'm very. I went on to, by age 14, I was already into sports. So I'd already done all of that.
Yeah.
So many times when I talk to people around the world during my travels, they're asking me, "Oh, you don't drink?" I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I finished that quite early, which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing, yeah.
If I hadn't have had that experience, I would have probably wanted to experience that in a far more dangerous environment.
Yeah,
that is the nightlife, no?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then went through law school, the whole of it, finished it. I don't know how I did that because I have a pretty big attentive disorder, as my older son has, but he's already done all the proper. I'm still fixing. And then went to London, chasing a girl, classic, And then my best friend bought me, Andrea, he bought me a flight ticket to London to do that. So I went with 2 bags full of records. Small step back.
Yeah.
Started working in a radio station here in the Interland when I came to live here in the nice place, let's say, where I met a girl that her father was involved in radio stations. So I was in this pirate radio, and then they found out that I spoke English. So they put me in one of the biggest stations in Milan,
Yeah.
but I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do, had nothing to do with music and DJing. So I walked out of that. And then in the meantime, I was started playing at 17 at different parties and blah, 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 and then constantly played at a sporting club here in my local area, where I basically did all the parties from 19... Anyway, for like 20 years.
Yeah,
So
wow.
I supported my... pretty well. I paid for university with that. It was, well, those years with people had plenty of money.
Yeah.
So you could make really, really good money with weddings and birthdays. Plus, it's a very rich area. So it's like, it was rock and roll at the time. It was one of the best periods for me, let's say.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to go to London, become a DJ, and that's when I started not getting paid when I properly, no?
Yeah.
And so went to Chase the Scale. My cousin Caroline, I slept at her house for like 6 months on the floor. Then went to Ireland, tried to break Ireland. I thought London maybe is too big of a goal to reach. So I went to Dublin, couldn't find anything. And ironically, Dublin, then Ireland, became for a long period of my career one of my biggest territories.
Yeah.
And to think that I couldn't even find a gig in a bar. I was giving CDs around, and we were going from one house to the other. And then we said, I just didn't have the right vibe there. And it's incredible how one night I went to see someone play, and that someone is the person that 10 years, 12 years later was the person that launched me in Ireland, David De Valera, who has also been one of my managers. And it's crazy how life revolves.
It's a small
and then
world,
you find
isn't
yourself
it?
in Ireland.
Yeah.
And then from London, I started playing on the gay scene, and really enjoyed that, playing for the prefabric. What were they called? I was playing 10 Mills, and then we were playing the what was that party on the Sunday?
Whereabouts? Yeah.
Anyway, at Fabric there was this big party, DTPM, maybe it was called.
Trade, maybe? No.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were playing the pre-party and the after-party, and then a couple of times the party, and then it growed from there. And I was doing Crash, and I was doing all the, like, a lot of the events in that scene, and then from those contacts, I was playing a lot with Smoking Joe, with Tom Stefan, Jumbo, and blah, blah, blah. And then with those contacts, I thought, well, if I keep playing for a taxi ride, basically, or a pill, which I would regularly give to one of my friends, I'm not going anywhere here. So I went back to Italy, opened a DJ agency with the contacts I have, and started selling DJs to Italian promoters, which was a very successful business at the time. We made Tom Stefan in one of the biggest DJs to ever come to our territory. He was playing literally everywhere. He was resident at Cocorico, he was resident at Fully de Pigali, he was resident at Diabolica, he was resident everywhere. And that gave me a lot of knowledge on how the business is run, no?
Yeah.
I also started booking trance DJs, Paul Oakenfold, Armin Bamboo, like big DJs as well. So we're talking organization of private jets and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, exhausting 5 years, but very, very good. Gave me some money, gave me a lot of experience, a lot of contacts. But ultimately, I got to a phase where we also launched a couple of DJs, like Cyberpunk, as for example, is an electro sort of duo that had quite a lot of success for a time. And so I learned a lot of areas and played on, on top of the politics coming from that, let's say.
Yep.
Strangely enough, because politics has never been my biggest strength from there on. Anyway, and then when recession came in 2005, 6,
Yep.
there was a big recession in Italy. The clubs really slowed down. Our business really slowed down. And in those 2 years between 2006 2008, I met my future wife. A lot of things changed. It was time for change, and I really wanted to go for it, myself, not really working for other people and helping other DJs and all this big struggle for what. So I started learning how to produce. I started trying to teach myself how to get more gigs and, get out there. And that's when, in the meantime, I finished, obviously, university and started making records. In 2007, 2006, 5, 6, 7, I started as Sandrino. I did this first record called Sandrino and Massi Arena Ice Cream. That was 2004 or 5. Okay. That was my first record. And then went on to do another couple on Gasoline Records, which was the record label of an event where I was playing in Milan. And this promoter, this very nice promoter, gave me that opportunity. And I don't know really why, because he knew I'd played in London for a couple of times. At the time, having played in London was a big deal, no? You would say, after London. It was like, and then released on that, and then started releasing as Ego Stereo. Opened a record label which had the same name of the agency. So MC Groove was the agency. The label is still on Beatport. We've got some incredible names for the time, like even Lutzenkirchen, or it was more progressive house, Ego Stereo, no? So you would have Soleil, Lutzenkirchen, that kind of stuff. And I got this demo one day from a friend who was trying to talk me into signing this really talented boy from, I don't know where, center of Italy, no? Cassino. So anyway, and this guy was Danny. So he sent me this record called Rollerball that I fell in love with, signed it. Danny was really hungry to meet me and because I was in Milan, I was in the big city, and he was in the in the small city. So he came, we met, and then I started going down to Danny because he was much better than I was in the studio, and I wanted to learn. So I would go, and I spent 4 or 5 years going 2 weeks a month. I would stay at his house, learning how to produce, and that's where, and then in the middle of that, I got him involved in Ego Stereo, because that was just me alone. And then from there, we started producing together, and then we started releasing as Ego Stereo together. We had the first gigs because we did this track called Peonia that was played from Sasha, Digweed, and all those guys, Erwan Cattaneo. It was that kind of scene, and it was very big, this track. It was very big in South America. So we did our first Space Ibiza gig with Elio Rizzo and blah, blah, blah. And then it sort of got to a level where we had a UK agent. We had, she was called Sarah from Dave Seaman, who was also on that scene. And they were all, we were getting into that scene. But it was sort of not clicking. And also the kind of things that I was doing especially were like more housey. Always they were like evolving into house. I was getting more and more interested into house, and Danny was getting more and more interested into disco. So we sort of realized at a certain point that the outcome from the studio was going in a different direction. We then decided we decided to consider changing name, and then this specific record came out of the studio, which was called Brick House.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that specifically.
So that came out, and so when that came out, we said, okay, we need to really switch. Because we were signing, we signed as Ego Stereo. We signed a couple of tracks on Moan. Moan, that is big in South America. And the last tracks that you see from Ego Stereo, the last tracks that are not from in compilations, etc., were on one, and they're actually house.
Mm.
They're actually Flashmob already, no?
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, we decided we would invest. I was penniless at the time,
Yeah.
so I had very, very little money. I decided to take this money, print a record, print a vinyl, put it in, because in the meantime I got married and had a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fortunately, my wife has her own business. She comes from a wealthy family, so we were sort of okay. But I've always wanted to do my own thing,
Yeah, of course.
economically. So two different things. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't ask for anything. I've never asked for anything. I've always done my thing. I had this bag from my kid,
Mm-hmm.
the nappies bag.
Yes. Yeah.
Filled it with vinyl,
Uh-huh.
with brick,
Yeah.
and went to DC10.
Uh-huh.
Stood in front of the VIP area of DC10 for a full day, and gave this vinyl out to all these DJs: Cassie, the Martinez brothers, Dice, Jamie Jones, all of them. And on top of that, I contacted all the managers from all the DJs that I thought were worthy of sending out the vinyl,
Yeah.
which were a lot
Yeah.
at the time. There were so many incredible producers at the time, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I sent the vinyl through these managements, and I sent personal copies to everyone in the industry that needed to have the record. And next thing, it wasn't released, it wasn't signed, and you had Carrie Chandler, Pete Tong, Jamie Jones, Loco Dice,
Mm-hmm.
Cassie, the Martinez brothers. Everyone was playing this record, and nobody knew who it was from. And they all thought that it was like one of them with a different name.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, is it you? Is it you? Is it you?
Uh-huh.
And then slowly it came out that it was this Italian new duo.
Mm-hmm.
And my strategy was to keep the record and not give it to anyone.
Yeah.
Because I already felt how the market was, how the world was, how the kids were like used to having everything that they wanted with the come of the internet, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought, why, there was MySpace at the time, and you could pretty much find things.
Yeah.
There were already people like Steph Troxler
Mm-hmm.
that did that famous interview that built a career on that interview, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already people coming out of internet, already the effect of the internet. And so I knew how powerful that would be in terms of wanting to find something and not being able to find it. So I kept it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to give it to anyone. I kept it for 9 months.
Yeah.
And it kept on going and going and going. The more I kept it, the more it grew.
Yeah.
It grew.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, after 9 months, DJ T sent me a message on, I think on a very, very early Facebook.
Yeah.
On a super early Facebook in the meantime.
Yeah.
And we're talking 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, not sure. And he said, we'd like to sign it for Get Physical.
Yeah.
And then myself and Danny said, yeah, well, DJ T, Thomas is very credible, and Get Physical is, was especially at the time.
Yeah.
It is still now in a different way, but with Buka Shade and Mandy in their prime, was like sort of a really, really good idea.
Yeah.
In proper sort of, and so we went for it. They printed it and immediately Defected wrote to me, because I was checking my SoundCloud every morning to see who was sort of, SoundCloud was at the time a good way of communicating, and obviously you could see who was listening to your music. No?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you could grow your network from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And I spotted Andy Daniel listening to my music, and I said, okay, what am I going to do about that? And then he messaged me before I made my move.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to make my move.
Yeah.
He messaged me first.
Uh-huh.
And then, so we licensed that. And then he said, if you've got other material, we'd be glad to listen. And then we, Need and Me was done in the meantime. And it was on the desktop for a long time. And it was sort of me having a little bit of a you know, is it too mainstream? Because we changed as Flashmob to be a little bit more cool and, well, cool, you know, a little bit more real
Yeah.
and organic.
Yeah.
And the records we were doing at the beginning, we were doing it for hands and recording them directly, going through a rain mixer, going through another filter of a saturator of another synthesizer that we had. So it was all very complicated. We didn't even have parts to the tracks that we did because we were recording them as we did them.
Yeah.
So we would play a machine, and we would. It was a different way of doing things, no?
Yeah.
We would do takes, and we would do, and obviously then keep the best, and yeah. But it was if you think of it, in fact, all our first tracks, they're very mono. They're not. There's no, because if you do it that way, you're taking away a big part in the mixing.
Yeah.
Because obviously all together you can't mix the tracks separately, and you can't. So anyway, but it worked, and then so we were having a big discussion on if Need Me was too mainstream. If it, we immediately had the feeling that it sort of had that little. It sort of had a potential to.
Yeah, so you must have known that it was, you had something big on your hands. A little bit
less big, I don't know, but it was certainly something strange.
Yeah,
and something worthy of, okay, is it? We were like thinking, is it too mainstream? One morning I just sent it.
Yeah.
I just sent it. There was a big discussion about that because I wasn't supposed to. But anyway, I sent it, and it was for the better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And but that was the moment when Danny was sort of, we're going too mainstream. He wasn't sort of excited about. He wanted Flashmob to be a really, really underground project.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted the big stages.
Yeah, sure.
That was the beginning of the separation, no? And then shortly after we did separate, because he was having some personal thunderstorms, and he couldn't deal with the life, and it was a little bit. He had other priorities.
Yeah.
Danny is one of the best people that I've met in the industry till this day. Learned a lot from him. He was an honest and incredibly talented person, and we although we split it in an amicable way, we very rarely talk, which is it's a shame, because I miss him so much. It would be great to even make music together again, and stuff like that. No, but anyway, I was very, very determined to do what I'm doing, and what I did, and I just moved on. Obviously started studying production even more and more, because I was on my own now, and the standard was very, very high. So I started experimenting and started releasing different things, different styles. And, once you have a name, and especially after those, we did a couple of years together, 3 years together with Defected till 2015. And then from 2015 to 2018, I was on my own.
Yeah.
And those years I was traveling like a madman and experimenting a lot, but I could experiment.
Yeah.
And I started experimenting a little bit of tech house as well. And I sort of expanded the reach of Flashmob to the tech house scene as well. Yeah. And then from there, then my mother got sick, and I sort of moved out of the scene a little bit. Slowed down, let's say. For a couple of years, and then then 2019, 2020 were 2 great years with the Lone Brazilian, and and then the Basement Jack remix, and I played Tomorrowland and played for Paradise stage with Jamie Jones, played for Paradise at DC-10, and started going a lot in South America, a lot of great memories. And then COVID struck.
Yeah.
And that's when I was sort of realized that I was pretty happy to be home.
I think a lot of people did, especially in, there was this moment where, yes, people weren't going out and continually on that treadmill of gigging all the time. It was actually an opportunity for people just to kind of take stock and
Yeah.
decompress and concentrate on some like meaningful creativeness as well, like being in the studio and being
Yeah.
happy just to finish things.
See, the thing for me is that that was the turning point in my life. Like honestly, I started DJing very, very late.
Yeah.
I've talked about this recently. It's 20 years from my experience in Thailand. I was in Thailand in Phuket when the tsunami came, no? And that's when I decided to leave the law career and just follow my dream, no?
Yeah.
And I was already I wasn't 20 anymore already at the time, and although
You're
I
a
seem
sprightly
younger
human
than,
being.
yes, but I'm not I'm not as young as but anyway, I wasn't very young when I started, and this to say that was a very after that I grew a very big responsibility towards life and towards my dreams and towards myself and towards when you survive something like that, you sort
Yeah.
of grow in on one side you think you're like immortal in a way, no,
Yeah.
which you're not,
No.
and I've had to find out in painful ways that I'm not. And during COVID, I was just happy to be home, happy to not be in an airport.
Yeah.
There's been years where I've done nearly 900 gigs in 12 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So I've been pushing myself, and not, as I said, not being 20. I remember many times going to the airport crying. Like really, really pushing. And then during COVID, it was like pushing for what?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And what am I doing, especially? Because gigging, touring is, yes, certainly an experience in life. It toughens you mentally, but which is a good thing, but it's like an heroic thing. But ultimately, you're just a zombie and you're living to be televised and pretending you're having fun because the reality is that you're not having fun.
Yeah.
Not always. Yeah, and the pretending part of the is become a massive factor now these days.
Yeah.
This I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the older guy that's like sort of pointing fingers,
No,
I don't
it's
care.
yeah.
If you're having fun, it's okay for me. I really don't care. I look at my own thing, but it's supposed to be about music, no?
Yeah.
It's not. There's very little left about music these days.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of there's big labels re-releasing songs with the same samples of other big labels,
Yeah.
that's unheard of, or it's just these phenomenons coming out of nowhere that are clearly the friend of, the girlfriend of, the sons of.
Yeah.
It's just become a circus.
Yeah.
And back in the day, you really had to stand out musically
Yeah.
to put a name on
Yeah.
on the map.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard graft, and people, and I think this as well. Like people will, think, oh, I want to be a DJ because I see these people on social media or whatever. They seem to be having so much fun. They're getting all this adulation. They're all like jumping up and doing all this stuff behind the decks. It's actually, like you've just said, they might not even be having fun. Two, should they be doing that or not anyway? And three, just the actual graft behind the scenes to even get there is, no one sees that. And you've got to be, like you say, you've got to be tough mentally to be able to live this life.
I realized during COVID that I reached my that's when I reached my when drops start pouring out of the full vase, no?
Yep.
And I felt that I didn't want to travel anymore, that I didn't want to. I just switched off completely for 9 months. and just spent time in my garden with a fire and just, well, you couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. It was surreal,
Yeah.
for everyone. And then slowly went back to the studio and slowly got passionate about producing again.
Yeah.
Slowly started studying more and more, wanting to learn, because starting to realize that my ultimate interest and goal is just making music, no?
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
what makes me feel, what makes me really, really, really happy, and what I really, really, really enjoy is making music,
Yeah.
finding new sounds and you know, and learning how to use new machines, which I regularly sell. and
So, I mean,
and
how do you work in the studio then? What drives your inspiration when you're in there? Do you have like a set schedule? Be like, this is my studio time, or is it actually I'm inspired, I need to get in there and lay something down?
well, these days I'm having more success working with my headphones in different parts of the house or even outside the house.
Okay.
So a lot of samples, for example, no, I like to use samples
Yeah.
in the first stage of production, no. So I'm looking for a very quick way of getting into a flow and
Yeah.
getting into a zone where I can really be creative. And isolation with headphones helps me do that a lot.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing a lot. Yesterday I wrote 4 loops in like 2 hours. Obviously from the same project. So you have the same main elements and you're changing the main synth, you're changing the drum line, and you're changing the toms, maybe even the kick in the end. But you're like, you do the first one, loop 1, you save it, then you start loop on loop 1, you save loop 1 as loop 2, and then you take out, you put in, you have loop 2, and the same thing, loop 3, loop 4. And but for example, to this process helps me, because the more you go on from loop 1 to loop 2 to loop 3 to loop 4, you're improving the loop every time.
Yeah.
Because
You're refining,
every
right?
time, yeah, because even if it changes, you're pushing yourself to rechange the kick again, which is a big thing, to rechange maybe the toms, which means the dialogue between the toms and the bass line, and the dialogue between toms, bass line, and kick is all changing. So all the low end is changing basically, which means that if you can change it being very, very similar to what you did before, you're onto a sound basically, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least in your head, and you're realizing what the sound is. And so then you have to fix that and put it into relation with what is expected from you as well, which is the shittiest part.
Yeah.
And then you have to put it into relation to what you really want to do, what makes you happy, and what you think is I don't know how to say this, because all of us making music really know where music is going without even talking to each other or without even listening to it.
Yeah.
I feel that it's like this. But also when you do listen to music a lot, then it helps you reinforce that thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, it's a kind of magic.
Yeah.
It's a magical thing that when you've been doing it for so long, you sort of know, and you can recognize when you're onto something. No,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to explain to people that surround you, because they don't. Well, I'm lucky because I have people that surround me that have been DJs and that can produce and that they know their shit. No, but they know this stuff. But in the past, I was surrounded by people that would only talk business, so I was isolated. It's good to have someone that you can talk to. But yeah, anyway, my music flow is like this. I work with loops and I get inspired with loops, and then I start working on the single loops. Then I send the loops to my singer Layla. She sings on them,
Okay.
get back, and then select one out of a lot. and yeah, and you know, move forward,
Yeah.
trying to finish it, and then
And so are you actually road testing these things as well? At what point do you think,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'm going to get this out there and start seeing
Well,
reactions? And how much does a dance floor reaction to something you're doing influence what you're then going to do the next day in the studio on it?
it depends on the kind of it depends on the kind of music you're making, because if for example, this period is a period where I'm making more. I want to make songs, no?
Mm-hmm.
I really want to make songs,
Yeah.
and so I'm working with Layla a lot, my singer
Mm-hmm.
that has done so many things on the album that is out. So yeah, it's more difficult to test songs on a dance floor if they're not songs that can also be played.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of them are songs, like songs
Yeah.
that have the goal of being songs,
Mm-hmm.
not really. They don't apply to the three rules that you should always follow when making electronic music, that you have to produce something that people will dance to, that they will play, and that they will buy. No,
Mm-hmm.
they will dance to, they will play, and they will buy. If you have these three things, you have fulfilled all the three. But some songs, they're not made for now. Obviously now it's like digital streaming.
Yeah.
You're adding so it's there are some songs that are just streaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then on the business side of things, someone could argument, oh yeah, well, how much are you going to make on royalties anyway? You might as well do it on streaming, because if you get the right one and you do 80 million streams,
Yeah.
you're making far more than, no.
Mm-hmm.
So depends what you're doing. And then on the other hand, the if I'm making club tracks, it's a completely different approach, because you have to find an idea, you have to make it strong, it has to be for certain criterias, for certain labels, and it's a completely different. So I often start from a template,
Mm-hmm.
and try to move from there,
Yeah.
and try to make, try to there I'm it's very, the rules are more strict, so there's no way, all the tracks are like, they're all the same.
Yeah.
17, you have a little piece of vocal, then the bass comes in at 30 or 1, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all the arrangements, it's all the colors of, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Well, whilst writing a song is you can sort of
Yeah.
experiment, and
Yes.
you're really contributing
Yeah.
to the growth
Yeah.
of electronic music.
Yeah.
Obviously it's more difficult to put in they're more difficult to sign.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
have so many tracks. I've got like 100 tracks that are like songs, but they're not it's difficult to, and off time they're difficult to sign.
Yeah.
So either you use them, reuse them, and put them in an album, or just keep them as ideas.
Mm.
And is there's you have to do a bit of both, no?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting you say about that kind of template about, where vocals and bass lines and things kind of come in on like a club track. And I think that's almost like the expectation of the dance floor, right? People are in the mood, they're in the rhythm, they know and they expect things to happen at certain points. And if that doesn't, that can throw off like the vibe of the collective in a club, I think. But like, yeah, and if you've got songs though, you're much more able to be more open and experiment. And why not have something without a bridge, or a no chorus or whatever, like those types of tweaks you can make in songs. There's a lot more freedom, I think. I mean, you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah, yeah.
an album. Let's talk about that. It's 2024. Like, how did it come together for you? And just tell us about it.
Yep. So, well, just quickly,
Go
one
on.
step back,
Yeah.
because there's one thing that I wanted to add to what you were saying that was really interesting.
Mm.
Because we are listening to music and making music every day, every day, every day. We're training our brain to get into that grid,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And as on one side, our brain is used to basically looking for those variations that trigger the attention of the brain of the listener.
Yeah.
The listener is going to clubs and listening to music, is used to a certain grid,
Mm-hmm.
and will react to those variations that happen in that specific moment. So the more, for example, club tracks are arranged in a certain way, the more you are familiar, you have that familiarity feeling when listening to a track. And the more familiar you are, the more you will like it, probably buy it, and blah blah blah. So there's a huge aspect of that in how tracks are made these days. For example, if you're making a song these days, it can be 4 minutes. It can be even shorter than that. You're right into it. You're giving away immediately, which was just the opposite of when you were doing tracks in years ago,
in the progressive
when
house era.
I mean 7, 8, or in you had Kyle Craig doing 15 minutes track. And it would be a journey into, now it's like you have immediately, because in those 6 seconds, 5, 8 seconds, you buy the listener, and in those first seconds, you're gonna earn the other 10 seconds that they will give you, no? And obviously, I think there's a specific earning for us if tracks are listened to for more than 5, 8, 10.
Yes, of
so,
course, yeah.
It's obviously it's all about. Anyway, that's the things that we're not supposed to talk about. The album.
Yes.
The album is the album is an expression of me wanting to tell to myself that I'm free to do whatever I want. This is why I did it on my label, because I want to believe in my own structure, in my own platform. I want to do my own thing, and through the years, you're always it's a psychological thing. You're always chasing labels. You're always chasing other people, and then you get to a point where you realize that in terms of numbers of sales and streamings, etc., you could do it better on your label than on many other labels, or like the result on your label is slightly less than on the bigger labels that you're doing it on. Let's not even talk about the economical side of things, because that's in those terms, I have 100% on anything I do. But in terms of overall results, the attention that I gain from my label is pretty much what I get from the bigger labels. Obviously, the difference is that I could control the amount of work that's going in it. So if on a bigger label you get attention 10, spotlight 10, and on my label you would get spotlight 7, 8, that 3 you can fill, that gap you can fill with hard work, with pushing yourself, with getting people involved, getting people interested, and that's how you get from 7 to 10. And that's how you get to being a medium-sized label to a bigger label. And that's what I'm doing, more or less. Giving myself and allowing myself to put out things that I think that are just things that I think that are worthy. So my album is a mix of things that you wouldn't probably expect from me. There's the old signature sound. There's the new sound. There are different sounds that you might not that it's difficult to compartment, that is difficult to put in a box, and that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in being me, Sandro. I'm interested in doing something that I'm doing only me, no? And so it's always influenced by my old hit hats, and by having a raw bass line, and having, there are always those sort of characteristics that in a way, this is a Flashmob record, no? But at the same time, I'm out of the box, and I want to be out of the box, because that's the real meaning of what all this is for me. I'm not someone that, I do get excited and I do change personality when I play, but I do it because I love music. I don't do it because I want to show off or because I want to pretend. I won't pretend. I won't dance if I'm not having fun. And this is why I've chosen to really do the gigs that count, that really make the music that counts, and really do things that are, that have a meaning. I'm not part of the rat race anymore. I'm not part of wanting to be part of something. I'm doing my own thing. I'm on my own trajectory now, which is a great feeling. It's something that I've achieved through COVID, because before I was deeply unhappy. And now I'm just studying, learning, improving. I'm surrounded by this. This is also pretty pretty important. I've changed a lot through COVID.
Mm.
All the people that I was surrounded by have changed, and I'm lucky enough now that after a million mistakes, a million difficult reports with people that because also people forget that us artists. I mean, anyone that knows me, they know that I'm not a very easy person, but I have 3 or 4 people, and those people are my world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm easy if I like someone. I'm not easy if I don't like someone.
Mm-hmm.
But in my job, I've always been super easy
Yeah.
because my passion is so great that I've always tried to compromise, and I've never been me in
Mm-hmm.
my work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that is I've always been probably too nice.
Yeah.
And I am nice. I like to help people. I respond to everyone, and I can say this out loud because I do.
Mm-hmm.
I reply to everyone. I try to help as much as I can because I think that that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've never had the luxury of having people that I can really, that I feel that we're on the same level and that I can openly speak my mind to 100%. I've never had that in the music industry, apart from my first agent,
Yeah. Okay.
Sam.
Yeah.
And I cried when she went away because she was the best. But anyway, and now, after many mistakes during August, the month of August, I sort of understood that to have that freedom to build even more the platform that I have, and to have the luxury of making the music that I want to make, and keep myself relevant, in the mix, let's say. And you need to have a strong structure of people that are really going to fight for you and really work with you. You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And to have it, and the problem is that with someone like me is that I have a pretty big machine
Mm-hmm.
going here with the label, the publishing, and my track, the brand is my brand is very, very respected worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's the brand is much bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
So I to feed it,
Yeah.
you have to have a proper infrastructure and a
Mm-hmm.
proper structure of people,
Yeah.
etc. And I've had the luxury now of starting to work with people that are real,
Yeah. Yeah.
that are passionate, and that are really helping me, but helping me not make money, get more gigs. They're helping me find a way of being happy. This is a completely different story, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I've started a new journey, and this album is part of that journey.
Yeah.
This album is again a way of a way of doing my own thing,
Yeah.
and trying to integrate in the music world, because I want to be part of the music world, but I want to be part of it in a way that makes me happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in a way that I think that is me. I don't want to be doing tracks for, oh, let's do a track for this. Oh, now I have to do a track. Oh, did he answer? Or this? That's just, I'm done with that shit.
Yeah.
So this is why I did the album. Also during COVID, I did an incredible amount. I went from not going to the studio to losing my muscle in my left leg,
Yeah.
because I closed myself into the studio
Oh my God.
making so much music. I didn't have my muscle anymore, which seems like it's ridiculous
Wow.
if you think of it.
Yeah.
And I actually had to put this blue, the
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then my wife Alessandro is telling me, you need to go and start walking again, because you can't have it. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
No?
It's nuts.
So anyway, and that's when I did Closer, and that's
Mm-hmm.
when I did a lot of tracks that are in the album.
Mm-hmm.
And so lately I've started working with these guys. Adapt, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
That just the word is so, because adapting is me. In a way, I have to adapt to them, and they are adapting to me. And just the fact that you find people that are willing to adapt, to find a shape, to find a way of being happy, and making an artist really, really express himself at his maximum.
Yeah.
You're
Flourish.
never going to do.
Yeah.
flourish. I wanted to use the word. I wasn't sure it was the right
No,
word.
no, that's the right word. Yeah, definitely.
Because you never know how far you can go, and you
Mm.
never know what you can do.
Hmm.
But I know,
Yeah.
and I already know what I'm going to do. But to do it, I need to be free, and I need to have people that are willing to follow me in my craziness,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what it's all about. No.
Well, absolutely, and yeah, surrounding yourself with a good team, and you're all in. You're all there's a circle of trust, so to speak, in that sense. We're at the point in the interview now where it's been so interesting talking about your career and talking about how you got to where you are today, and obviously we've been talking about tracks and everything. And this is the point in the interview where we talk about the House Culture Perfect playlist. So this is the perfect playlist that exists on Spotify. Every single guest has submitted 5 tracks to this playlist based on the different themes. You've got them there. I can remind you if you want me to, but I mean, we've been talking about we always start off with a Catalyst tune, and you've been talking about being happy and being yourself, and you've chosen as the Catalyst tune Salida, Be Yourself, the Danny Tenaglia mix of that. We've actually spoken to Danny on this podcast and
I know.
heard the whole history of him pulling that track together and working with Salida, and it's a fascinating story. And to me as well, when that track came through, that when we're talking on email, like pretty much I'll say pretty much every single one of your choices, I was like, yes, yes, yes. So I was so happy that this has gone into the place. I love this tune
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, but tell me about your experience with it and why you chose that.
Well, my one of my best friends, Sergio,
Mm-hmm.
I have goosebumps because
So I'm thinking about it like just
because
my experience.
because yeah, I mean, one of my best friends, Sergio, gave me this cassette. We're talking cassette
Mm-hmm.
with the Danny Tenaglia DJ set at the Tunnel. I
Wow.
think it was Tim.
Yeah.
And if I listened to it today, I would still know the sequence of the songs today. I've listened to it so many times,
Yeah.
and this song was like it just. And Danny Tenaglia for me is always represented the pinnacle of this. He's always been the GOAT for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Like there's you can turn it into, but the most complete artist in terms of playing, in terms of how long he plays, in terms of the musical range that he can touch, the
Mm-hmm.
culture of the European and American, the mixture of the American influences in his sets, all the tribal, all the house, all the going right up to the American version of the last part of house that becomes techno from
Mm-hmm.
between the 909 and the 808,
Yeah.
and the way he carries himself,
Mm-hmm.
the humbleness,
Yeah.
the it's just a different level
Yeah.
from anyone.
Yeah.
Without taking anything away from Carl Cox, that is a incredible human being, an incredible DJ. So we're talking, but Danny for me is the best.
Yeah.
So
He's
that song is just something that really it's a picture of it's a representation of my dream, no, when I was
mm-hmm.
young and when I was a kid, and I had this Denny Tanan, and I've never met him. I talk to his nephew every so often,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I have a really strong American agent now, and I guess I'm gonna meet him sooner or later, and he doesn't know what's coming when I see him. Danny, like the Italian, Danny. But yeah, it's the real thing, no?
Mm.
It's the
Yeah.
real thing, and
It's the real
to see
deal.
him after so many years, I'm he's still doing his things. At the beginning of years 2004, maybe it was, I saw him play in Miami at Space Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally went to bed because I don't like clubs very much.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I love to play, but it's not
Yeah.
my environment. I just
Yeah.
anyway. if I can get out, once I'm in, I'm nearly always thinking of when I will get out.
Yeah.
When I went to see Dane, I was there for like long hours.
Yeah.
I stayed to look at him like still like this for like 6 hours, and
Yeah.
then the other side of Sandro woke up immediately and said, "Sandro, we need to go back to the hotel. You need to sleep because I don't like to be." I used to be big in sports. No, I've always
Mm-hmm.
been very into sports. Yeah, at a pretty good level as well, and so
Mm.
I've always been very, I have to go to bed early,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous to say after what I've done. But anyway, and then so I go to bed and rest for like 6-7 hours, and then go back to Space Monkey, and he's still playing.
Oh my god.
He's still playing. So
Wow.
watched. So I went to bed at like 4, came back
Yeah.
at about I don't know what time, and he was still playing. It's just ridiculous.
Jesus.
I would like to do a photo with him, and I would
Uh,
probably print it and put it in my house when that will
I
happen. So, Denny, if you're listening, you owe me a photo. Well, you owe me. You don't owe me any. We do a photo, and I put it in my house. Plus, Denny Tenaglia is probably a little bit Italian as well. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I
So
can't wait to see that. So you're going to make it happen. I can't wait to see that picture. It's going to make my
shit,
day. That's hilarious.
my day as
Okay.
well. So
All right.
is Winks house music. So
This is a floor filler. So yeah.
it's a record. I think it was released on Josh Wink's label Ovum. I
Of
think.
them. Yeah.
I'm not
Uh
sure.
huh. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'd need to fact check that
Nevertheless,
myself, but yeah, probably.
Winks is the legend, Josh Wink. Well, first of all, it's one of those records that Danny would never want me to play when we were playing the two of us, which was something that I suffered a lot playing with someone else. In fact,
Yeah.
I never do back to back,
Yeah.
very rarely. And in his opinion, this was a track that you could only play it after hours.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. I just love the track. It just turns me on. It just puts me in the right. Really, it's just house music as it should be.
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I have so many memories of that track. It's one of those things that when Danny left the duo in
Mm-hmm.
2015 after 3 years of Flashmob, so we're into 12 years alone basically.
Mm-hmm.
No, 9 years alone, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
From when he left onwards, I've played it everywhere. It's just
Finally, I can get this one
I
out.
just played it every set, and it just turns every time. I recently played it at 338, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just, wow. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
nearly too much.
It's a great choice. It's
So
a
yeah,
great choice. Cool.
thank
Okay,
you.
so a sunsetter and this track in
Yeah,
particular,
Tango
we've been
Boys.
talking about songs and things like this, and about how things could potentially take you on a journey, something that's longer than maybe 3 or 4 minutes as a song. This is Pachanga Boys' Time.
Yeah, 15 minutes or 17 minutes, something like that. And
Yeah.
it's the two main parts of the records are when there's the change of the bass line and when the ARP comes in, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but many minutes to get to that point. And
Yeah.
there's a video where I play this in Lost in Ibiza on a boat, and with
Mm-hmm.
the sun setting, and it's just
Wow.
the perfect video for the perfect track and the perfect memory, and it's just an incredible track.
Yeah. It's a
It's just an
beauty.
incredible journey into. And I recently have a friend. So I have this friend in Los Angeles that is a famous photographer, and every time I go to play in the US, so every like 3-4 months, I go and
Mm-hmm.
I stay for like a month, and I'm very passionate about deserts and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
we go to the deserts, we take photos, and we're listening to music. And he does a lot of the photos for the heavy metal bands in America. So
Mm-hmm.
he's very heavy metal. He's very rock. Federico
Yeah.
Yanni Photography, his name is, and his photographs are incredible. And so we're always talking music, and like, you should listen to this. And I'm always trying to find a a sweet spot where I can connect what I love to what he loves, no?
Yeah.
And so I played him this song after he spoke to me about a number of other artists that made me think that he might have enjoyed this. I played him this, and we played it in the car going through the desert valley, loud.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's just an insane track.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
It's stunning.
So go and listen to it if you
Yeah,
don't know it.
indeed. All the start to finish, no
Right,
skipping.
this is
Okay, a
this
tearjerker. Rui da Silva, Touch Me.
Silva.
Wow.
So go back 22 years in London, giving CDs out. I meet my friend Layla Walker, the singer that I do all the tracks with, and we start. Obviously, she had just done a tour with Beverly Knights and Jamiroquai and worldwide tour, and so she's very, very knowledgeable about music. Very, 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 very. And we talk about music, and we find out that we have this special track that we love. We both love, no? And we say to each other, one day we'll do a track like this.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to do 20 years later. And the funny story is that when I told you about me going back to the UK, from the UK to Italy and opening an agency, the first DJ that I booked in Italy at Cocorico was Rui da Silva.
No way.
So so after like 15 years from that moment, 10 years from that moment, I meet Rui, we become friends. He comes to Italy, came to Italy several times. And that song is just a super special song to me.
Yeah.
And to see him play it live, and I was actually having a pizza in Rimini, in Riccione, with Rui da Silva at a certain point. And I'm like, wow, how crazy is that, no? And then 10 years later, I'm trying to be as effective as one can be in the studio to try and make a timeless track like that, which I probably already have, but I want to do another one in a different way.
A last tune, a crowd are asking for one more. It's, oh my goodness, Bronski Beat.
Small Time Boy. This has been my last track for the first 3 years of Flashmob. So basically, when we were really playing the raw Berlin, Watergate, or Cookies in Berlin, or Sisyphos in Berlin, and all these like really, really underground. We used to go in Southampton and play that what was it called? That club that was a really, really small club, but it was one of the best. Anyway, there's this club where this was the track where we would finish with these like the real clubs, no?
Yeah.
Those clubs that you very rarely have anymore. It's also one of the first vinyls that I've bought with Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the album Welcome to the Pleasure Dome.
Yes.
This Bronski Beat is one of the first vinyls that I've ever owned. Obviously, my grandmother was from Liverpool, that I loved very much, and she used to take me to record stores when I was like 10, and we used to go and listen to all this industrial thing that was happening in Northern England at the time, no? And this was the pop sort of version of what was happening in the underground, and it's just very real. And so to finish a night with that is also putting a signature of realness to what I've done, no?
Yeah, what a tune. I love it. Yeah, brilliant. And so, I mean, well, that was the last tune, and this is so it leads up to the last question. So, we always ask our guests the final question, which is, you are on the House Culture podcast, and we are House Culture. We're not just about the music. It's all about club culture, the scene, personalities, art, fashion, all of the things that feed into this massive community that is driven by the music. I mean, when you think about the cultural movement of house music, dance music, what how do you see it as the main things that make up the community? What are the main themes of the community for you?
I don't know. It's as if house music has been globalized a little bit now. It's been absorbed. It's been melted into it's not. There's a very thin line if you think of what house DJs are playing these days, apart from the purists, let's say, but that doesn't even exist anymore. That's something that's gone. The whole house music era alone is now, I mean, America's taking over, and it's all a mixture between house and tech house and more mainstream vibes, and it's everything is changed now. So
Hmm.
what used to be what used to be like that proper house thing is for me exists and doesn't exist anymore. Let's say that the new vibe is what I see is the new vibe is a lot to do with what the golden era of deep house was. That's coming back massively. I mean, if you see Prunk, or if you see the Cristasi, all these guys that are having a really good moment right now, there's a lot of that. Even I listened to Michael Beebe's DJ set from his last One Life, and so much of that era into this new sound that's coming now, which
Hmm.
is pretty much what I'm doing still
Yeah.
at this day, translated into 2025, let's say. That's in that in terms of of the music. In terms of the culture, I'm not sure because a lot of the younger generation has a completely different view on what were the elements that brought together people. Like you were in the day in front of the projects where you would express the arts,
Hmm.
had it been breakdance or had it been, you know, rapping or all
Yeah.
those things that together influenced with the Caribbean and influenced by, and then they all slowly became house music. There would be so many things to say, but it was more of an expression of feelings of love, of necessity, of revolution, of of uh, of uh, of protest, of reaction to, you know, having equality in race. And there's so many things that have led to these the taboos of the late 60s, and all of those things that go into the soul of you know, of the dark period of people that have been subjected to slavery, that come back into soul and the funk part, and all these things come together in a magnificent happy community of people that in you know, in the loft were dancing and just expressing themselves and just, you know, moving forward.
Mm. Hmm.
I don't see that much these days.
Hmm.
I think it's going backwards rather than forwards. I mean, there's the love and the realness and the, I don't know. Part of that culture is lost. It's
Mm.
become something else. Maybe in a way, maybe in a way, it still lives in a different form. No,
Mm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how all these things translate in today's. A lot of what you see in on the media, this media presence has really put a negative sort of. But definitely, those are the elements that we fight to keep in house music. No, for
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
So messages of hope, messages of love, messages of freedom, messages of overcoming, messages of we're all the same and we can all, you know, that's house music. No, house music is also tech house,
Hmm.
is also everything that
Yeah.
is just house music is just everything. No, in a
Yeah.
way, if you think about it.
Hmm. Brilliant.
So that's it. That's the
Let's
way I see it. Hopefully, I've replied to you.
let's wrap it up there. No, thank you so much for taking part. It's been wonderful to chat to you, Sandro.
No, wonderful to be part of this. I'm a huge fan, and thank you for having me.